In this episode, this is part 2 of birth parents. In part 1, we talked all about visits and why visits are important and the challenges with visits. And one of the things I said is if you want to make the whole visit scenario easier, is one of the things you need to do is build a relationship with birth parents. And that may seem a little scary. And I get it. They may be addicted to drugs. They may have been abusive to their children, and so on and so forth. And so that can be scary. And there are times where you shouldn't be in close contact with birth parents. But I will tell you, more often than not, it is perfectly safe to work with birth parents. The social workers work with the birth parents. The CASA works with the birth parents. There's all sorts of people that are working with the birth parent. And so understand there are those extreme cases. I'm not going to deny that they're not. But most of the time, these are people that have made horrible decisions in their lives. In many cases, they were brought up they really were never modeled what being a good parent looks like. And I'm not giving them excuses. I'm just stating facts. And so, a lot of times they're addicted to drugs and things of that nature. And understand drug addiction and alcohol addiction is extremely powerful. If you've never known somebody that has been addicted to either drugs or alcohol, you will never fully grasp the hold that those things have on you. The other thing is keep in mind that I have never met any person that is addicted to drugs or alcohol that intended to become addicted to drugs and alcohol. And most of the time, it's a slow process that they don't even realize that they're getting into. And one day they wake up and they realize, I can't stop. And so understand this is tough. So let's talk about building a relationship with birth parents. So very scary, right? Because you don't know these people, but remember this. They don't know you. They don't know if you're a good person or a bad person. They're assuming you're against them. So the first thing that you have to do to build a relationship with a birth parent is to show them that you are for them. Because until they recognize that you are not an enemy, that you are there to help, they will never let their guard down. They will never let you in. They will keep you at arm's length the entire time. And so that's difficult. And each person is going to be different on how you do that. But the easiest way to do that is to show compassion and to show grace. Don't judge them for what they've done in the past. Just don't. It's very difficult, and I know lots of you are saying, but I would never do that. And you know what? That's probably true. But if you grew up the way they grew up and you had the situations that they had and so on and so forth, that may not be a true statement. And again, it may be. Maybe you would have been a strong enough person to say no, or maybe you wouldn't have gone down that path. But I can tell you, in my life, I have made some horrific mistakes. And because I had a great support network around me, I didn't feel all the consequences of some of those mistakes that I made. Many of these people didn't have that support network, and so their mistakes compounded on top of compounding on top of compounding, and before they knew it, they were in a hole that they just couldn't get out. So, step 1, find compassion. And I don't know how to tell you to do that. You're just going to have to figure out how you do that. You're going to have to find the 1 ounce of good that you can find in them and grab a hold of that and hold on to it. Second part of building a relationship, understand you're going to have to go first. Somebody always has to go first, and you're going to have to go first. And you're probably going to have to try multiple times because, again, they're not going to trust you. And so they're not going to let you into their world until you've proven. And so that's not going to happen in one conversation. It's not going to happen in 2 conversations. It's not going to happen in 10. It probably won't happen in 10 conversations. It's going to be a constant battle of you showing that you are for them. So, all right, next. The other way to help them see that you are for them is to help them with their case plan. You're going to know what their case plan is. You're going to get to see it. And so you can help them with that case plan. And my wife, Katie, and I have worked with birth parents and helped them through their case plan. And I'll tell you, it's rewarding and frustrating at the same time, because we did lots and lots of work to help one of our foster parents work their case plan, and it didn't feel like they were working very hard at all. But here's the thing. They were working as hard as they could. And that's hard for me. I'm going to just tell you, it's hard for me to see that their good enough isn't enough, right? That their trying isn't good enough. And so, but that doesn't mean they're not trying. And so you're going to have times where it's going to be hard. You're going to be like, I feel like I'm doing it all and they're not doing anything. And that might be true. But you still need to do that. And so you're going to need a support network around you that you can vent to, that's going to say, keep going, because I promise you're going to want to quit. And then you're going to see major progress and everything's going to go. And then all of a sudden there's going to be a setback. And you're going to be like, oh, you just ruined all the hard work that we did. And they didn't do it on purpose. And to be fair, some of them will self-sabotage. And part of the reason why they self-sabotage is because they don't think they're good enough. They don't feel good enough about themselves. And so they self-sabotage so that nobody thinks, that they're good enough. And that's when we have to pick them up and say, okay, you made a mistake. Let's continue on. Let's keep going. But here's another part. It's hard to stay positive when the birth parent just isn't working their birth plan. And you're helping them and you're doing everything you can, but they just don't seem like they want to. And you think, well, they just may not want their children back. It's most of the time. Some cases that's true, but very rarely. Most of the time, they just feel defeated. They don't feel like they can get to that mountain. They don't feel like they're at the bottom of a really steep hill, and they don't feel like they can climb to the top of that hill. They don't feel like they have enough energy. And that's real. And it's defeating. And no matter how big of a cheerleader you are, how much of a coach you are, and no matter how much you help, they mentally don't think they can get there. And that's tough. But our job is to continue to pour into them, continue to help them, continue to foster them to try to get this relationship back. And so that's really important. And so this isn't an easy process. Sometimes we've had birth parents that we've done all sorts of wonderful things, we've done all sorts of wonderful things for them, and then they turn around and say negative things to us, to the county. And it's hurtful, because I want to just say, are you kidding me? Look at all what I'm doing for you, and you have to remember that most of the time they don't mean it. They need to deflect. And it still hurts, folks. Don't discount it. It still hurts. But let me tell you why you should do this. Because what's going to happen is you're going to fall in love with these wonderful children that are in your home. You're just going to fall head over heels in love with them. And if you do this, and reunification happens, there's a real possibility that you will get to remain a part of these wonderful children's lives in some way. Now, what does that look like? It's different for everybody. But you will still get to see these children that you fell in love with grow up. Now, maybe it's once a quarter or once every 6 months or once a year. But isn't that better than nothing? Do you want to live your life Sending these kids home not knowing how they're doing after you've fallen in love with them? The, the, but if you don't build a relationship with the birth parent, I promise you one thing. When reunification happens, they're going to run as far away from you as possible. We have a really good friend of ours that did this, and she did a whole video on it that we'll post soon, and about her journey through foster care. And I will tell you that the county told her when the children first came that the parents were dangerous, and it turned out that they weren't dangerous, because he showed some anger. They said he was dangerous. Well, look, if somebody took my kids away from me, trust me, I would show you some serious anger. I mean, there would be serious anger, and there would be hurt, and I would probably do some things that I would regret doing because of that. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying it is the way it is. And so they went from this, but she kept trying, her and her husband kept trying to build a relationship, and they built a relationship. And they finally broke down those walls. And then they reunified. 18 months later, the kids reunified. And do you know that they now have birthday parties? This family now has their birthday parties at the foster parents' home, mostly because the foster parents' home is larger than their home, and so they can accommodate more people. And so they do birthday parties. They come over in the summer, once a month or so to swim and eat out. And these people have become their friends. And they're going to get to see these two wonderful foster children grow up and become adults. And they're going to get to be a part of their life because they did the hard work. And I'm not going to spoil her story. When that video comes out, you should watch it, because trust me, it wasn't easy. And she talks about how it wasn't easy. And I promise, we had a placement that we did everything for the foster parent and they did nothing. And it was so hard and it was so frustrating. And we would say, my wife and I would say to ourselves, why are we even trying? But you know what? We're watching these kids grow up now, and we're seeing them. And yes, we don't get to see them very often, but we see them every once in a while. And that's why we did it. And we put a family back together. And that was our job. We put the family back together. Now, they had to do the work, but we were right there beside them. So understand, birth parents are difficult, and it's going to take a lot of work, but I promise, if you put the work in, not 100% of the time, but most of the time, it is so rewarding. I hope you enjoyed this content. Please think about subscribing, and if you liked it, give me a thumbs up. Until next time, have a great day.